So noise reduction. If you shoot an image at higher ISOs because you're indoors, you don't have enough light, you're going to get noise. Depending on how much noise you get, it basically depends on how much money you spend on your camera. If you have a camera that costs $400 for the body, you're going to get more noise at 1600 ISO than somebody who spent $4,000 on their camera body. So that's essentially one of the things you're paying for as you upgrade in cameras. So I'm going to hold down the command in the space bar to trigger the zoom tool temporarily so I can zoom in. Now I'm at 250%, space bar only to temporarily convert to the hand tool so I can pan around. Even with the video compression, you should be able to see the noise that's in this image, breaking it up. So when you see noise in the image, you have some options to fix it. I'm going to hit Command minus just to shrink that a little bit. So what you do is you just go up to filter, go down to noise, and go over to not add noise, but reduce noise. It's going to bring up the reduce noise dialog box inside of Photoshop. And you can pan around until you see, well, I'm at the bottom of the image, so I want to pan up to his face. You always want to do this at 100% at the most important area. So I'm going to pull down sharpen details. I'm going to click on remove any JPEG artifacting because there's usually always JPEG artifacting. Pull up color noise reduction, pull down preserve details, and pull up my strength. Like I'm having to be very aggressive. And do you see how it's not really doing a great job? I'm gonna click OK. Do you see how that just made it sort of blurry? I'm gonna hit Command Z to undo that. I'm going to hit Command J to duplicate it so that I can go back and remember your filter remembers the very last filter you applied with all the settings in the top slot. So I'm going to reapply that on its own layer so I can toggle it off and on. So you can tell it did a little bit, but mostly it just looks blurry to me and I still see this weird noise. I'll zoom in a lot so you can see it. See that weird noise that's still there? So I got rid of some of the noise, but not all the noise. So I'm going to Command 0. So this is the image we're working with. So instead, I'm going to hit Command or Control J on that original background layer, and I'm going to go over to the Camera Raw filter, which has a better algorithm for fixing noise. I'm going to zoom back in. Space bar will still work in Adobe Camera Raw to pan it down. And here, if you toggle open the detail slider, the detail panel, make sure sharpening is pulled all the way to 0. And just, I'm going to pull up that color reduction and the noise reduction. And I mean, it does such a better job. I'm going to go kind of crazy with it. So that's as far as you can go with one application. Obviously, that's too far. And then you're thinking, well, that's still not perfect. And well, that's the thing. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to have these limitations. That's why, like, if you're doing professional headshots and that's what you want to get into doing, you need to have strobe equipment because strobes are the only thing that are going to throw out enough light so that you can get a good, well exposed image at ISO 100, which is the lowest noise possible. I would suggest this is probably shot in cold lights. The new trend is to shoot with LED lights. And those are great, but you have to spend so much money to get them powerful enough so that you can actually shoot them at an ISO of 100. I'm talking like, a few $1,000s. I mean, you can buy LED lights, you can get a set of 3 for 200 bucks, but the light output is not much more than a 60-watt bulb. And that's just not enough light for our cameras to shoot at ISO 100 at any kind of a higher f-stop, like f8, say. Anyway, but this is better, right? So I'm gonna click OK. I'm gonna hold my Command and Space bar and zoom back in, and I'm gonna say, okay, that's okay. But maybe if I go to filter and reapply all that again, okay, now I'm liking the direction this is going. But what's the problem? It looks too blurry in some ways. It looks photoshopped. It looks fake, right? But I'm gonna try to blend the fake with the real. So the first thing I'm gonna do is add a layer mask. Bigger brush, right bracket key. I'm going to swap my colors to make sure black's in the foreground. Look up here. I'm not on the brush key, so hit B for the brush. Look up here, normal 47%. I'm going to tap A for 80%. Too big of a brush. Left bracket key to make it smaller because I just want to paint back in the hair. I need to paint back in the stuff that was sort of sharp. That'll help sell this illusion of overcorrecting. Paint back in the jewelry, smaller, and maybe I'll do 50%. Pull back in the beard. Wherever there's fine detail, maybe the lips, the nose, the eyes, and a little smaller, the eyebrows. Now I need to I mean, I've got some really harsh transitions between noisy and not noisy. So now I need to lower the opacity of this entire layer just to bring back some noise throughout, right? But it's way better than this. Do you see how I just tried to make it just better? Well, what would this be used for? Well, let's use our cropping skills. Let's say this is just a little LinkedIn profile shot. So that's okay. So I had the crop tool. I'll go up to 1:1, crop it down, pull this over. So with a tight headshot, you don't want it that tight, right? You need breathing room. You need a little space above the subject. And even for a head and shoulder shot, that means you need some shoulders. Notice how his hair's too close to the top. It's better to crop it off or give it some negative space, but not too much negative space, right? Everything in photography and art is sort of a balance. So obviously, you don't have to do a dramatic rule of third if you're doing a LinkedIn profile shot, but maybe you don't want a perfectly dead centered shot either. So maybe I'll just subtly tweak it over to this side, just subtly hit enter. And where were we? A little noisy, less noisy. I got to say, this looks so much better. I wanted to cover just 2 or 3 more images on noise reduction to talk about it. So this is a camera raw file shot with a Canon. I'll double click it. It will automatically launch into the camera raw interface. And I'm saying camera raw. I'm going to just click and zoom in 250%. Do you see the noise? This was shot at ISO 1600, which is normal for a nighttime shot, but you're still going to get noise when you use higher ISOs. It's just a part of the process. In Adobe Camera Raw, I'm going to click to close the basic area and I'm going to go down to the detail area. Essentially, I'm just going to pull up that noise reduction to maybe 50 and color noise reduction to 50. So here's the thing. What's going to happen is I'm going to make the image a little bit blurrier, but in hopes of making it look less noisy, but not so blurry that it becomes distracting. And you have to figure out that little fine balance. If I pull down the sharpening to 0, do you see how it looks totally blurry? So I'm gonna leave my sharpening up somewhere around 35 or so. How high can I pull the noise reduction? And it depends on the image. For this particular image, I don't know that it matters that it looks a little bit blurry on the edges because I'm gonna go back up to basic. I hit Command 0 to fit it in screen. I have some clipping, right? See that red area? Remember, you can turn that off and on by toggling this highlight clipping warning off and on, and that will always let you know. And then this is the one for the blacks, and typically I don't worry about those too much. So I'm gonna pull down the highlights, pull up the shadows a little bit. Clarity is gonna give me some mid-tone contrast, the perception of color, and then maybe I can pull up the vibrance a little bit, which is gonna saturate the colors, but it's not gonna oversaturate them. And then if I wanted a bit more blue in the sky, I can come up and grab this masking tool, linear gradient, and just click and drag, something like that. And as soon as I start adjusting anything, that red overlay is going to disappear. There's nothing I can do really. I can't make that black sky blue because it's too black, but I can warm up the top of the building a little bit, which I'll do that. And now if I click open, it's going to open that image in Photoshop. Command 0 to fit in screen, Command minus to shrink it just a touch. Click off of that crop tool and look at it. As I look at it, I feel like it needs some cropping. Everything does. I'm going to clear the ratio up here, pull this out, pull this up, pull this down, too much sky, pull this over a touch, maybe to get that light, click enter. And yeah, I really enjoy that. I think that looks nice. Save that out. It's going to open in the camera raw interface. I'm zoom in. Okay. Blown out highlights, lots of noise, right? Can you see that? Lots of noise. So let's tweak it. I'll go ahead and pull down my highlights right away. I'll scroll down, toggle open the detail tab. I'll pull up, it looks like it did an automatic sharpening of 40 and an automatic color noise reduction of 25, knowing that it was shot at 1600. I'm gonna pull that up a little higher, pull the noise reduction up a little higher. The goal is to get rid of as much noise as possible while keeping it as less blurry as possible. And that's a balance. Everything's a trade-off. Hit Command or Control 0 to fit it back in screen. Overall, I really like that. Maybe I'd pull up the shadows a bit, saturate the colors a bit, go ahead and give it a little bit of clarity for some mid-tone contrast. And I like where that's going. I think I would go ahead and click open because this begs to be cropped. This is distracting, right? This person over here is distracting. Command minus to shrink it. Pull this over. I don't know that this little area is important, so I'll pull into that column. And above the building, I don't think it's important with the line, so I'm just going to really focus on Skyline Chili. Now maybe I want to get that other light. So I do like that other light now. I'm going to hit enter. Command 0. So now I've got this little arm here. Can I fix that with the spot retouching tool? Doesn't usually work very well on edges, but let's give it a whirl. That's really nice. Command minus. So there we go. We have fixed the noise, recropped it. Looks like it's not quite level though. I'm gonna activate the crop again, click inside, and I'm gonna draw down a line from up here. See, my rulers are already on because you can go to view and toggle on rulers, or you can just hit Command R and it'll give you rulers on the top and bottom. And whenever you have those, you can just click on any tool. If you're hovering in that ruler area, you can click and drag down and just try to align it with something that should be straight. So I'm going to align it with the bottom of the window frame. Do you see how over here it lines up, but over here there's a gap? So I don't need Command or Control T for free transform because it's already in crop, which you can transform and rotate from there. So I'm just going to click on the outside. I'm trying to rotate that to make that window. And if it's snapping too much, hold down the Control key and it will let you just do incremental rotation. I feel like that's nice. See how this guide mark lines all the way across there? Hit enter, go up to view, down to guides, get clear guides. I like where that's going, but notice I had this blue-green color in the background, and it filled what would have been transparent areas with that blue-green. So if I click it back open, hold down the Alt or Option key, it'll shrink in from all sides. Hit enter again, boom, fix that problem really quickly. Hey, if you like this video and it helped, you can help me. Smack it, whack it, and crack-a-lack it. Take care. I like subscribers.
That's awesome! Whoa! Yes! Oh my god, I did! This is...
Hey, you stayed to the end. You know what that means? You're awesome. I'm talking about you. Now get out of here.